everyone. What a gorgeous day again we've had. That's why we live here. I came from Texas and I found out one of the presenters, his son is a Texas Aggie, going to graduate soon. Boy, I can't say anything good about Texas A&M, that's for sure. My sister married an Aggie. Can you believe it? She's a T-SIP, which means she went to the University of Texas at Austin. The two biggest rivals in Texas, and they've been married for over 60 years. And she lives in Salt Lake. Yes. Actually, when they played at in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl, she would go to the Texas side and he would go to the A&M side. And then they would see each other after the game. So that's how it was for them. But I want to tell you about something where you can go that you will probably be spam-free. And that is Antarctica. Although I did find one place while I was down there that had Wi-Fi, and that was to send a signal 24/7 of a penguin colony back to England. So they were studying this colony. And you have an opportunity to go down to Antarctica and walk with the penguins. We're going to do that in February of 2026. Absolutely. But they get the right of way. And so does a 3,000-pound Weddell seal. Nothing like, it's almost like being in the Galapagos, but you've got these big animals and these cute little penguins running right by your feet. So it's just terrific, and I've got some brochures here for you. And the beneficiary is all around you right now. The beneficiary of this trip is the Carmel Foundation, because we're going to donate a part of the proceeds to the Carmel Foundation. So you'll be doing good if you go on this trip. And there's one other bonus. I used to live in Buenos Aires, where the trip starts. We will fly down to Ushuaia, the southernmost city in the world, and then we'll get on a ship there after we tour the wilds of the end of the world. And before that, I'll take you around, if you want. I will take you around for 3 days in Buenos Aires and show you things you won't see otherwise. Because I did live there, and my buddy is a big mocker in the town. And I love him, and I love Buenos Aires. I love Argentina. So if you would like to go, I've got a little brochure here for you. Please see me. And I'm going to be here throughout the entire presentation if they keep it interesting enough. And then you can ask me questions after everything is over. Okay? So let me tell you about who you're going to get today. You're going to get, is it Luis Alvarez? Luis Alvarez?
Alvarez.
The famous family?
No.
No? Okay. If you don't know, if you haven't been in the service, Mr. Alvarez, his school is named after him, the high school in Salinas, and he's a big, right, and he's a big award winner, and he has moved up to live with his family in his old age. I think they're back east. So, anyway, he is going to tell you about today's digital age, staying safe from an AI-driven cyber threat that is more critical than ever, especially for senior citizens. That's all of us. I'm 81, by the way, and this trip I did about a year and a half ago. So we're all in the same boat, I hope. So join Luis and with cybersecurity expert and founder of Alvarez Technology Group. Oh yes, she says. And an informative session on how to recognize and avoid phishing scams, secure your personal information, and navigate technology with confidence. With over 3 decades of experience in cybersecurity and IT solutions, Luis has helped businesses and individuals protect themselves from evolving digital threats. And joining him today in a twofer, like a tag team match, is Commander Todd Trayer. He's only been here for 3 months, and he came from San Jose, where he was in the police department there for 24 years. And he loves Halloween. With a face like that, I understand. He's got twin 19-year-olds. Oy vey, raising those. Absolutely. So let's welcome them and enjoy how to keep us safe.
So we're going to get started with the commander. He has a great presentation that we're going to watch, and then I will jump in toward the end, and we'll talk a little bit about what you can do to prevent the stuff that you're going to see from happening to you.
Let's see, does this thing work, or should I use the handheld? Which do you prefer? Raise your hand if you want that handheld thing. I'll use it. Yes, okay, you got it.
Sold. And then I won't look like Madonna while I'm wearing all this stuff.
All right, first of all, thank you. Thank you to Luis, and thank you to all of you for allowing me to be here. My name is Todd. I do have 19-year-old twins, a boy and a girl. They're good people. My mom is part of the reason why I'm here. My mom's 80 years old. She lives in northern Idaho. And I've spent the last 15 years trying to keep my mom from getting scammed. Okay? And I put together a presentation specifically for you because anybody can fall victim to this type of tomfoolery, if you will. In fact, somebody walked in this morning and told me about them getting what's called extorted. Somebody's trying to take their money, a lot of money. So it just shows you how relevant it is here in Carmel. And I'll tell you a little secret. People here have money, right? And it might be you, it might not be you, but the optic from outside is that Carmel would be a great place to borrow money without asking, okay? And so my goal today with Luis, who obliged me to be part of his presentation, is that you leave with a knowledge of what is happening right now. And you know the protections that can be in place to keep you from getting in trouble and losing anything. I did bring one of my superstars with me. Officer Higgins is in the back. Just sneak up here real quick so I can see you. And the reason was because she tries to hide from me whenever I do presentations, but she is a superstar for our community. She's driving around all day long. If you don't see her, please wave at her. She's usually driving a truck, a big truck, a police truck. And I just wanted to invite her today so she could, number one, hear a little bit about what I'm going to talk about. And number two, she likes to take pictures of me and send it to the whole department and make fun of me. So, as any good partner does. Today, I'm not going to bore you with a big PowerPoint presentation, but really I'm going to tell you some stories about things that are happening. And it looks like you have some options here of how to help protect yourself. If you're on the internet, if you have a cell phone, these are all common tactics. There have been people in our community that have completely lost their house because they didn't know what was happening, and they had no one watching over their money. I'm going to skip to the very end, the last sentence I want to tell you, that some of the best defense you have to protect yourself, your money, is each other. You know, if you run things by somebody next to you and they go, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. You don't own a toll. You don't go over the toll bridge where you have to pay a toll tap. That doesn't sound right. Don't click on that. Like, you can help each other. Okay, that's a big one that's going around right now. So just know one of the biggest things you can do is rely on each other, and you'll also have my information. If you're not sure, you can call me directly and ask me. And I'm going to say, hang up, put that down, don't click on that. Okay, I will help you. We'll talk about the different types of frauds that are going on here and really how to protect yourself. Right now, the number today is $3.6 billion were lost last year to seniors in our country. That is a very, that's one number, but you're going to see different numbers throughout this presentation because everybody has a different optic of how that really happens. The growing number right now is $12 billion last year alone to seniors in our country. The internet's big. Who here uses the internet right now? By far the majority, right? I'm all over the internet. 1 out of 3 seniors are affected by the things we're going to talk about today. If it looks too good to be true, it is, right? Let's watch this video real quick. I think it's a good example of what is happening to real people. I paid a lot of money to be able to do this, so it better work.
Mary Lee Courageau from Englewood says she lost her life savings to a sophisticated scam recently. $1.3 million.
You don't know you're in a scam or being scammed until you're in that scam.
And by the time she knew it, the money was gone.
And he said, well, you're not going to get that.
The FBI just released shocking numbers from the year 2022, showing the number of scams against the elderly skyrocketing. Losses up 84% last year, with elderly Floridians losing over $325 million. Florida with a hot...
Well, how about you just take my word for it that it's a problem right now? Does that sound fair? All right, well, that tends to happen in technology nowadays, doesn't it? Maybe I got scammed. There we go. Financial abuse of us, right, people who are a little bit older, it's classified as this. It's somebody taking advantage of you because of your age. Something you might not have fallen for when you were 20 years old, you might fall for now because you're not up to date on the different scams that are happening, number one. And number two, you don't have the protections in place like some of the companies can give you. You know, some of these folks will call you on the phone and say, this is what's happening to your computer. I see down here you're on Microsoft, which either you're on Mac or Microsoft, some type of, and then they'll convince you to start clicking on things that give them full access to your computer. And you won't have access to it back unless you send them 500, I heard, 1,000, 50,000. They'll try, right? And why are they doing this to you? They're doing this to you because it works, because people do it in communities throughout this country, throughout the world. Today we're going to talk about some exploitation, criminal fraud, and then caregiver abuse. I have done presentations in a room like this with not so many people, and somebody has raised their hand and said, this just happened to me. I was asked to go down. My grandchild called me from Mexico, even though he lives in North Carolina, and called me and needed money to bail out of a Mexican prison, which can't be fun, okay? So I can see where you want to do that, but it ends up not being related to that person at all. This is just somebody that is using what we're going to talk about a little bit, I'm sure you are too, is artificial intelligence. With AI, or artificial intelligence, that means they can take my voice that I'm doing right now, that she's recording on there, and they can manipulate it where it would be a phone call to you that sounds exactly like me. It uses my words, my intonations, and it's real. They've done it to the presidents, they've done it. It's very successful, and you're not going to know the difference, right? That's why you call me directly if you have a question. All right, and why are they picking on you? You have money. You know that 73% of our country's finances are among seniors. So you're a target for them. They're looking for your money and they'd like to not give it back to you. Some people have disabilities, they have memory loss, things like that. They have predictable patterns. They know that a lot of people sleep in. They know that you go to bed early. They take all of these things into play to figure out the best scam to go toward you. Somebody told me before this presentation here that somebody called them and knew everything about them. Everything. You know, they're talking about where you live. You'll get an email on your computer that says, I know you live at, although there's no addresses here, but you live at this address 2 north of that address, right? And they know everything about it. They know your social security number. They know the names of your family members. They know everything. And they want to make sure that they protect your information. So if you sign up to this thing right now for just $80, it'll protect your information, right? Yeah, exactly. But they know it because it's all public information. A lot of this stuff is public information. With the internet the way it is now, they can get that info. So just be aware that there are people who look this stuff up. They do Public Rights Act requests for different groups of data, and they can get that data and use it for bad things, which I wish I could prevent that. I can't. But I can tell you about it, which will protect you. Yes, ma'am.
Why is it that this country is not willing to set rules or laws or whatever you call them to protect its population. Other countries are doing this, namely with AI, and the US was adamantly against
Yes.
it. That doesn't make any sense to
It's a great
anybody
question.
with common sense.
It's a great question. I think it's super political, and I think I can tell you that in Carmel, we will do everything we can to protect you, and that's why I'm here today, right? So I can't stop that train from going that direction. You're right, I've seen probably the same things you have, and I read a lot about it because I like that stuff. But I can give you the best information. And once you hear about some of these scams today, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I've gotten that phone call, or my friend has gotten that phone call, right? All right, what else? So very often, people will give money because it sounds good. So you give $80 to that program because it sounds good. Let's say you give $800, maybe it's $8,000. I guarantee you there's somebody in this room that's probably done something like that. Then you figure out it's a scam. So you call the police, or you call somebody, and you report that scam. This is super critical. You have to understand this, please. Someone might call you the next day and say, hey, I work for this company. I heard that you were scammed. You were one of the 30 people that got scammed. I want to protect your data and protect your information. This is what I'm going to do for you to help you. I work with the police department. Boom, boom, boom. That sounds great, doesn't it? It's $500 though. You know, it's going to cost money to do this, but we will do this too. They not only scam, but they refresh the scam again. They get you twice. Okay, and that's what right now that's happening here. It's happening in the peninsula, all over the place. People are falling for it. Be aware of it. And let's work together to keep that from happening. I don't have to tell you that this stuff is coming in on TV. You know, you might see the Wonder Mover things you put underneath your dresser to move things easier, and you buy them and you think it's the best thing ever because it's $19.99. You got a free set for her and a free set for him. But then you find out that you have a subscription to these Wonder Movers, and every month you're getting these Wonder Movers, which cost them like 50 cents, but they cost you $49, okay? And then after 6 months, it goes up to $100, and you don't pay attention because you don't recognize this is happening. Subscriptions are a big way to take advantage of you without you paying attention. So I bring that up. If you're comfortable, raise your hand if you have somebody in your life that looks over your bank account. It's not everybody's comfortable with it. Okay, like I'm on my mom's bank account, and I try to take her money, but she won't let me. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Mom. You're watching me probably. No, but I'm on it, and I think she's very grateful for that because we have that relationship. I think I'm a cop, pretty safe with it. But I will call my mom and say, what was $1,800? What was that check for? So for propane, you know, the company comes in and does that type of thing. So she has that gift. She has somebody that is looking after her, but I think about what would happen if I'm not around, right? And many of you have that, I'm sure. You don't have somebody looking over your account. But some of the exploitation things we've talked about, the free trials, misrepresenting services, work from home schemes, weight loss, number one things that are happening right now. These are all the number one things that are happening in our area. Excessive gifts. You might receive, if you order Amazon, let's say, a lot of people are using Amazon. You get gifts you get Amazon packages to your house. You start getting more packages than what you ordered. That's a clue that somebody has your data and your information, and you need to figure out how to solve that. I will tell you that right now you can change your password on your Amazon account. That's a good way to do it. But really, you really need to look through your bank records and see how much money you have lost. And it might be worth letting the police know, okay? Definitely something I can help you address. I was talking a little bit about my mom, right? My dad recently passed away. So my mom gets a call from someone who says she has an annuity for this much money. And my mom calls me and says, this guy just keeps calling. Like, I don't know how he knows that my dad passed away, but he keeps calling over and over again. He called 15 times yesterday. I was like, Mom, that's almost as much as I call her, right? I do call her a lot. So I called the guy, and I said, what are you doing? What do you need? And he says, I'm going to take your mom's money, and I'm going to put it in a 9 or 10 year annuity, a new one. And I promise you, my mom is not looking to put her money in a 9-year annuity where she can't touch it, right? She wants access to that money. But you know that person is getting money from that transaction, right? And so somehow the guy looked me up online before he called me back. and he knew what I did for a living, which probably helped. But the moral of the story is that I said, stop calling my mom, right? So I'm protecting my mom from that person that is doing legitimate business. It's not illegitimate what he's doing, but he really is taking advantage of a situation. And then we found out that he was able to access my dad's passing through open source, right? Because that is a public document, that is a public thing when somebody passes away. Pretty ugly, isn't it? Think about your passwords you have on your things in the world. I'm going to tell you my secret. I kind of choose the same password, but then I change the end of it. So I put like Officer Higgins is one of my favorite people, 25 for 2025. And she's in all of my passwords, right? But that's an example of something that's very complicated and difficult for somebody to figure out because you put in number signs and all these other things, exclamation points. But look at it's probably hard to see in the back, but the most common passwords that scammers are looking for is the word password, right? Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever number you need to get to. A lot of us do that, and I get it. I know why we do it, because it's really hard to remember that stuff. But you have to tighten up your passwords to where they're a lot more complicated, because people are able to get into your data and figure out what's going on. That goes into the identity theft. I could teach a whole class on just identity theft and wiring money and all those things. It all just comes down to understanding and respecting the fact that people are trying to get into your bank account. You have something you can do about it. That's the money thing I promised not to go into. The grandparent scam is, I heard somebody talking about it today, if you don't mind me pointing at you, because I really think it was valuable. You just got called yesterday? Last year, okay, last year. She got a call, and it was her grandchild, who, grandkids don't call a lot, right? But I've noticed with my kids even, they don't call grandma a lot. But when they do call, when Nathan calls my mom, it's a big deal, okay? And my mom would do anything for Nate, my son at Texas A&M. And what happens is the scammer will say, I was in a car accident. I'm in Georgia. I'm in Mexico. I was in a car accident. Oh my gosh, my mom would say this. Are you okay? Nate would say, I'm okay, but I hit my jaw, which is why my voice sounds different. I hit my jaw. I think I broke my arm. I'm worried about my mom and dad finding out. I promise you, my mom would say, I will not tell your dad. I'm telling you, my mom would do that, right? It's not because my mom doesn't love me, but she loves those grandkids maybe a little bit more, I don't know. So then Nate, my son, would be asking for $500 to get the car out of impound or something like that. Then what happens is, how does that person get that money? There's two ways, really 2 or 3. They wire the money through the bank. If my mom knew how to do that, they have Zelle, they have PayPal, Venmo, those different ways of doing that. All legitimate companies. Or they tell you to go down to Safeway, to Walmart, and buy what's called a green dot card. It's a cash card. And that cash card, you can give the number to somebody over the phone, and it becomes instant cash for them. And that should be one of your biggest clues. When somebody's asking you to go down and purchase money like that, they are looking to take your money. They're going to scam it. And it's really hard to trace that money and get it back once that happens. Same with Bitcoin, right? The person that lost their home recently nearby, it wasn't in Carmel, but not too far away, they were asked to take a tremendous amount of money and convert it to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like electronic money, okay? It's super accepted. And what happens if you put it in my Bitcoin account, which is a really long number, it specifically goes to me. Often it goes offshore, and I can download it into my personal bank account, and it's treacherous to try and trace that money, okay? And that person lost everything. A sweetheart scam is when you're walking around Carmel Beach and somebody comes up to you and says, you look so handsome, sir. What is going on with you? And you're like, I am handsome, right? Because you are, of course. But this person, they start to talk to you and they're interested. And I don't care how old you are, it's great when somebody comes up and does that. I've been trying for years. But they spend a lot of time, right? They really invest some time. They might even come back and see you tomorrow because you said, I do this walk every day. So they invest the time to get to meet you, and they call it a sweetheart scam because it's nice to have somebody to talk to sometimes, right? And that's human nature. but that person builds up that rapport with you, and then they figure out a way to get into your bank account. They literally will take your checkbook if they can, or they'll take a picture of it. And we've had businesses and entities here, even in Carmel, where the checks get fraudulently replicated and tens of thousands of dollars get stolen. But my team goes after them. They get them. So I'm grateful for that. And then you've heard of, IRS or the police department calling you saying you have a warrant. If you're not a criminal, you probably don't have a warrant, all right? And if you do in Carmel, Officer Higgins will come get you. But the police don't call you for a warrant. We don't do that. We don't call you. If we do, then I think we're being kind of lazy. So we don't do that. But the IRS is never going to call you on the phone like that either. They're going to send you real letters. Then you're going to know already that you didn't pay your taxes or whatever happened. If you don't know, you don't have to take a guess. You can take a moment, check with your friends, check with your family, check with me. And I can call the IRS for you. You know what I mean? And then hear how much money you make. I don't know. All right, we talked about the recovery scans already. Caregiver abuse, I just bring this up. I don't know if anybody has this happening, like caregivers in their life, they may or may not. But some of the people I have met in my life, like people I've grown up with, I told a story where I was speaking at my church. I was doing kind of this presentation. And afterward, a lady came up to me who I've known my whole life. Her son was one of my best friends in high school. And she came up and she said, my grandson, my friend's son, stole $30,000 from me. And it happened a few months ago. They don't want to tell the police. But she said, if I would have known that somebody who could be a potential threat was someone in my house, I would have made different choices. Especially when the young man, 20-something-year-old, says, don't tell my dad, right? There should be one secret about money is there should be no secrets. Okay, there should be no secrets when it comes to giving or loaning money. Run it by important people in your life so you can help protect yourself. And I'll be passing around a hat in a minute. Just kidding. I don't want to get fired. I've only been here a few months. There's a lot of other impacts that I'm seeing and I've seen in my career. I was a cop in San Jose for 29 years, and I worked everything, every type of case. I was acting deputy chief when I retired from there. So with that in mind, I've really just seen a lot of different good and bad things happen when it came to money for people. But I've seen even the 3 months I've been here, I've heard stories of a lot of people here losing their money, real money, to these con artists. It doesn't feel good, right? Like one guy here told me that his brother convinced him to invest in something and he lost $45,000. That's a lot of money. And he lost a bunch of weight. He goes, I just can't eat. I'm just thinking about what happened all the time. It's eating him up, right? He's skipping meals. He's not going to doctor's appointments. Like, you don't think of the psychological side of these things. People are embarrassed, right? And it's okay. I'm telling you, we won't leave you high and dry in Carmel. We're here to be a resource, an ally for you, and just know that. It's okay if you feel that way. If that's happened to you or your friends, know that it's a very normal thing. But imagine the loss of trust that person has. It's equivalent to getting burglarized. Somebody coming into your house, rummaging through all your stuff, stealing your rings, your jewelry. That stuff hurts for years if that hasn't happened to you, and it's just not fair. Okay, how do you protect yourself? Besides what Luis is going to say, I've tried to make this easy. The one in the middle is my favorite. Say no. Somebody calls you and says, I want you to donate to the police foundation because Todd Traer is my favorite commander in the world. Say no. If you don't know what's going on, just say no. All right? And that's okay. And if you should be able to call back a foundation that you believe in and get directly to them and do your donations if you want to do that, if you're not sure. Today, giving out your information is dangerous. Don't sign complex agreements without talking to somebody more important than me. Trusted family, and again, no secrets. Have a good relationship. We talked about that. Cash versus checks and cards. We can't track cash. I can see when you took it out of the bank. I can see a picture of you doing it from the bank. They'll give you that all day long. But I don't know what happens to it once you take it out of the bank, once you take it out of the ATM machine. I don't know. But checks and cash, checks and credit cards, I can follow, right? I can follow if you make a charge on your Visa card. It makes it a little bit easier for us. Make sure you shred those receipts in your house. When you use your when you're using those checks and cash, if you get receipts for them, you don't need them. Hide your financials, hide your checkbook. You know, we all keep, like, if you have a car, we all keep our keys to the car in the same place. We all keep our money relatively in the same place. A couple people still hide it under their bed, which I think is fun to find sometimes during search warrants. But also take a moment to check your credit. I could spend a day, and I will always be around. We come here for, the first Tuesday of the month with the chief. We're right across there, and if you want to check your credit and you haven't had a chance to do that, there's a way to do it online. It doesn't cost anything. You can do it like once or twice a year. You can kind of see where you're at. So if you're at a 730 now, and then you go and check it in 6 months and it's at 400 or 500, there's something going on, right? Or you just like to spend money. And never give your personal information unless you initiate the call. Somebody calls you and asks you for your social security number, it's not okay, right? Anybody who's calling you should know that information if it's that type of entity, like Social Security, for example. And when you get those calls, I'm going to tell you a secret. The cops do this to me all the time because they think it's funny. But they will go onto these websites and they will spoof a number, and it says, like, my team doesn't do that now, but my other team used to. They would put on their President of the United States, and my phone would ring and it says President of the United States. And it has, or it says the White House, or it says, you know, Dolly Parton, I don't know, just something, right? They do it because it's so easy to do. What you see on your phone is not what you're gonna get. And I wanna tell you that scam where it says possible scam or a spam, that doesn't happen for somebody who really knows what they're doing. That's somebody who's just throwing out 100,000 calls at a time through teams of people in different countries trying to get your money. But know that they can manipulate your phone to where it says what they want it to say. So if it says, police union, and I love our union. I'm not focusing on them for a reason, but that's a call I get a lot. Is, hey, it's a police union calling right now, trying to raise money. I don't always know, but I know we know who to ask. I think you're part of the union team, but the reality is they do it in a certain way that you know you're donating to the right people. And people shouldn't get mad at you if you say you want to call. Well, let me call you back. So it's a Chase Bank, and you have a Chase Bank account. You say, okay, no problem. I hear you. I owe you $1,500. Let me call you back. And if somebody hangs up on you or gets mad at you and tries to keep you on the line, that's a clue, right? You can get that number from your statement. You can get that number from the internet, or you call us and you ask us, and we'll get you the right number to call so we know that your transactions are going through. I recently got that text message saying I owed money for the Benicia Bridge. And I go over that bridge, I do, and I wouldn't be surprised if I owed him money. But I got that text saying I owed the toll charge. And I looked at it, I'm like, I did recently go over that bridge, but it should all be taken care of the way it's all set up. So I called directly to Bay Area Transit or whatever it is, right? And the lady literally laughed at me. She goes, you're the 30th person that's come to my line asking me about that. I can tell you now without even looking, you don't owe any money. I said, well, look anyway, right? And I didn't owe any money, but that just gives you an idea. Even I, the person who's working in this gig, right? I can even be fooled by what I'm seeing on my phone. Okay, this is how you're gonna know if you're getting swindled or your friends or your family are. Unusual bank activity, right? Looking at your statements. It's hard to say loss of mail because we're in Carmel. Like, the mail is kind of wonky, right? You don't get the mail to your house or to your doorstep. But if you're supposed to be getting statements from Wells Fargo, from banks like that, and you're not getting your statements, you should really be questioning that. In fact, we were at a call recently where someone had told us, I haven't received my statement in 6 months. And then, right away, I started thinking, what is going on, right? It turned out they had our old address, so they're sending it to the old address and it wasn't forwarding anymore. So it was fair, but right away, we have to worry about that type of thing. We talked about your new best friend, right, that's gonna meet you during the walk. probably, if it's too good to be true, it might be. So please protect yourself. And if you see your friends hanging around with a new friend, be aware, ask questions, right? It's you owe it to each other to do that. If somebody's forging any signatures in your life, that is not okay ever. All right, report it to us. Let us figure it out. Also with the loans and gifts, if you see any type of check that says loan or gift or cash, right, that's how you can write a check to yourself for money. If it says cash and it's your bank account, that's a clue that somebody has compromised your account. It's easy to fix it, but you got to spend some time to figure it out. You're not alone. Especially if your wills and trusts are getting changed. If you have a will or a trust, like I have a trust, right? When you first get a trust, you probably receive 10 things in the mail about that trust because of whatever you own in the world. I don't own much, so I get like 2 things. But you get those things. So if there's a change in your will or trust and you see things showing up on your will or trust that you didn't do, that's a huge red flag. You're not alone, okay? We're here to help you with that. Something told me Luis knows how to do that stuff too. And then finally, a caretaker or relative who suddenly begins handling all of your business, your financial business. That could be wonderful, like me with my mom. But just ask to be explained. The transparency should be 100%. It's your life and your money, right? And you have the right to know. So I'm not telling you to be mad at your nephew who's trying to help you, but you should be. It's almost like a business transaction. You have to really look at life like that, unfortunately, because it protects your nephew and it protects your money. All right, here's how you report stuff. 1 in 24 things get reported to cops, okay? That's pretty low. So when I give you this $3.6 billion, I wonder what it really is. I don't know. But I do know that as a department, we care about you and we care about the right things happening. You can report it, probably like 311 doesn't work here, but you could call 911, which goes to Carmel PD if you live here, and we would help you navigate the next steps. I took it a step further before this presentation, and I met with our district attorney's office, the person that handles fraud for our whole county. And there was a team of people that met with me, and I had to buy them all breakfast. But I did it for you because I want to make sure that when I do get a real call and you've lost 40, 50, whatever, hopefully nothing more than that, or not even that I have a team of people that are going to back me up and help support me on it. Because we are a pretty mighty team, but the reality is those things take a lot of time and investigation, search warrants, and we will make sure that happens the right way. So I put all this stuff here. I will leave it with Letty, so we have you have access to it. At the end, I think I have my name and stuff like that you'll see in a minute, and I'll sell it to you at no charge. But just remember the key takeaways: don't trust information coming through their phone or the internet. They are very savvy at this. This is what people do all day long, and there are thousands and thousands of people who are looking for your money right now. Be aware of unusual money transfers, and you're not alone. That is kind of my presentation. I had a really good video, but it just told you everything I just told you. So just know that. And Luis, I'll let you take over unless we want to start with questions. I think we should.
Let me offer up a couple things. So how many of you have heard the term phishing? How many have heard the term schmishing? So that's the text version of phishing, which the commander talked about. Who's heard of the term vishing? That's voicemail, or voice phishing. Commander talked about that. And that's becoming more and more prevalent because of AI. And it's so sophisticated, the AI can take your voice, or the voice of the person that's calling you, and engage in complete conversations. Interactive. You can ask it questions. It knows everything about that person that's publicly available or that they can access. And it's sometimes freaky how much, and I've done this because there's sites where you can go and test this stuff out. So I point that out because it used to be that we would always say, if somebody calls you, let's say your bank calls you, right? Hey, this is your bank. Just want to let you know blah, blah, blah is happening. Can you come on down and write a wire for X amount to this person because they contacted us and say that you owe money and we don't want to lock up your account. We just want to make this right. So can you come down to the bank and make this happen? That actually happened to one of our clients, the banking client. our banking client stopped fraud from happening because the person that came in, they said, no, we would never have called you to do this. But they were about to wire $15,000 to somebody because they thought it was the right thing to do. How many of you are on social media? Yes, sir.
Well, we're gonna have time for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How many of you are on social media? Facebook, Instagram, anything like that? That is the fastest growing source of fraud right now for all citizens, senior or otherwise. Why? Because it's a place where we engage. We are very open about what we do. We like to tell people when we go to lunch and what we're eating. We like to tell them where we're traveling and who we're meeting. And we like to post pictures. So we're basically giving up our lives to these sites, which then can be used against us. And that's how they conduct those phishing attacks, because they go to your website, or they go to your social media page, they learn about your family, they learn about your activities, they learn what you've been doing. Before, that would take a lot of time and effort and just wouldn't necessarily pay off. Now, with a generative AI, I can do that to thousands of accounts every hour and be able to target thousands of people without spending a whole lot of money and make a lot of money in the process, because it is a very lucrative thing. So how do we protect ourselves? A couple of things. We talked about complex passwords. What I like to do is what you do, which is come up with passphrases. I love spring, and then change capitals, lowercase, special characters, something that's easy to remember, right? Please try to use different passwords for different sites, because in the dark web, once somebody hacks your password, they'll try every known e-commerce site, every known bank, to try to see if that combination of email account and password will let them in. How many of you use multi-factor? Well, first off, let me ask a question. How many of you know what multi-factor authentication is? How many of you use it? I would recommend you use MFA for everything that you can, including your social media sites. Facebook, Instagram, all of them allow for MFA. If somebody ever hijacks your social media account because of a weak password, how hard do you think it is for you to get that social media account back? Impossible. There are no phone numbers to call Facebook. They have 0 published phone numbers. Same thing for all the other social media sites. So you would communicate via email, and then they're going to ask you to prove it's yours. We've tried to help clients that have been victimized, and it's just impossible to do. But once they have your social media credentials and control of your social media site, what do you think they do? They start contacting all your contacts, pretending to be you. They start direct messaging them. So you can't even go to your site and keep track of what's going on. But they're reaching out and saying, hey, it's me, Andy. I'm having a problem, can you help me out? How many of you have gotten a text from somebody that wants to get to know you? Hi, is this George? How did I get your number? Anybody get one of those things? It's becoming really prevalent. I probably get 2 or 3 a week. And these are people that are trying to engage. The message is pretty short, like, hey, how did I get this number? I don't know who you are. And I would respond saying, well, I'm Luis Alvarez, right? So now we have an engagement going on. And there was a story last year of somebody that this happened to, and they sent this person $50,000. After several weeks of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, this person at the other end, whoever they happen to be, claimed to be a financial analyst in Hong Kong, eventually convinced the person that they had the inside track on a really hot stock. If you send me $50K, I can double that overnight and I'll wire you the money back. But by that point, they've been communicating for so long, trust had been built up. And that's really what they're trying to do, is build that trust. So when you get one of those unsolicited texts, if you can block them, if you subscribe to a carrier that lets you block them. Because you want to send a signal to the carrier that this is fraud, or potentially fraud. Couple of other tips. How many of you have ever used the Equifax or Experian freeze option to freeze Yeah, if you haven't done it, you should contact all the credit bureaus and ask to freeze your account. All that does, it's really easy, you go to their website, there's a big button you push after you prove who you are. All that does is it makes it impossible for somebody to do a credit check or get a credit report without you knowing about it. So if somebody goes in and tries to buy a car and they use your social security number and they try to run a credit report and it's frozen, you get notified. And the car dealer immediately gets suspicious. If you happen to forget that you've done it and it's really you buying that car, super easy. You just call the credit bureau, prove who you are, and they'll unfreeze it so that you can run the credit report. So I recommend you do that. Most of us, as we get older, we don't ask for that much more credit, right, in life. So it's probably not going to be much of an issue. I mentioned MFA. I'm going to put my Clinton glasses here. If you are on social media, make sure that you set up as many protections as you can. That is, make it so that your communications are not public. That you have to actually be connected to somebody in order to see them and for you to get them to see whatever information you put on your social media site. Be skeptical of any emails with invoices. How many Norton antivirus invoices have I gotten last week, huh? Jeez, have I had that many computers? But yeah, that's something that's a known scam. What they're asking you, or what they're trying to do, is you get this invoice, there's a link there that says pay here or dispute. You go in, you click the button, it looks like the website. It looks like Norton's website. It looks like Symantec's website. It's uncanny how good it is. But then they ask you to put in all your personal information, put in the credit card, so that we can issue you a credit, and now you've given away the store. So if you get those invoices, delete them. If they're legit, trust me, they'll mail it to you. If it's something that you forgot that you might have gotten, they'll call you. So get rid of those invoices. What else, Kirk? What other pieces of advice can we give? Oh, passwords.
Yes.
One of the complaints that we sometimes get is that if I have to use different passwords for all of my sites, that's kind of hard to remember. So I'm going to write it on a sticky note and carry it in my wallet, right? What I recommend is that you consider using a password manager. And this is software. 1Password is one of them that we like. Really easy to use. You can store all your passwords in that password manager. You only really have to remember one password, and that's how to get into your password manager. And then it can even create complex passwords for you that you don't ever have to remember again. And then when you go to those sites and you go to log in, it'll prompt you to, log into your password manager, and then it'll put in the password for you. So it's a really easy way to create complex passwords for all the sites and not have to try to remember them. It's called a password manager. The one I think would be best for you guys is 1Password. It's called number 1Password. So 1password.com if you want to go check it out. It costs about $20 a year, something like that. Sir?
Is something like that really safe? Hacked so that it's not really secure.
It's funny you should mention that. There was an incident a couple. Yeah, there was an incident a couple of years ago where a major password vault, as they're also called, got hacked, and they claim that no data was revealed because one of the things that happens when you set up your account is you put in a passphrase. It's an encryption key that's completely unique to you. You don't have to ever remember it again, but once you put it in, it encrypts all the data that's stored online with that key. And because nobody else has that key, even if they broke into your vault and were able to download the information, it would be gibberish to them because of that particular encryption key.
You're saying that it's quite safe.
It is quite safe, yeah. And there's also browsers today, like Chrome and Edge, have a password manager that you sometimes see when it'll say, do you want me to save this password? Those passwords are stored, again, in an encrypted manner so that they're not able to be stolen from you.
Okay, so what I've been doing for quite a long time is my financial passwords, I just write on a piece of paper that I have, stashed, and all that stuff that I really don't care about if, you know, somebody gets access to it, then I save that on my browser. So that's how I do it.
Whatever makes you comfortable. Yeah, absolutely. If you have a bank account, if you have a credit card, almost every bank that I know of, and all credit cards have apps that you could load on your phone that will send you alerts anytime that credit card is used or anytime there's a transaction on your bank account. It's really handy to see because sometimes, you know, you have a subscription, like, you know, I've subscribed to something and every month I get a charge for it. I see it on my phone and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what that is. The bad part is my wife sees it too, and sometimes questions happen, if you know what I mean. So make sure if you have a spouse that has access to your account, tell them. Whatever it is, it's legit. But yeah, I highly recommend you do that. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, along the same line, I heard the other day, maybe a few weeks ago, the testimony of somebody who had this. So they had very long passwords, over 50 characters, and blah, 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 and everything was fine until he changed computers. And he bought a new computer, don't know what happened to the old one, but anyway, everything got lost and he couldn't have access to any of his things. So how likely is this to happen, or is there a warranty against that, or?
Most password managers are synced to a cloud, so you can have the same password manager on multiple devices. Like I have mine that's on my computer, my two computers, and on my phone and on my tablet. So I have access to them all. So if I change my computer, it doesn't really matter because the data that's stored locally gets wiped out. It's the stuff that's in the cloud that I want to keep. Yes, ma'am.
Just an alert. A while ago, I received a call from a quote-unquote political party, and the person wanting to engage in a sort of a mutual understanding of where we stand in politics and policy. And then they asked, do you want to be a repeat donor on an ongoing basis? Because, you know, first they establish the rapport, and then they want your credit card to do continued donations to the party. And I said, no, I'll just mail me an invoice, you know. I was very suspicious when they started asking for the credit card. And I was thinking, that's something to be aware of in this day and age of politics and all that's going on. And somebody is pretending to come, say, from a political party and engage in a sort of an understanding, mutual understanding, and wanting their credit card for repeat donations to that party. I just want to give them a.
Yeah, no, that's a good piece of advice is be cognizant of that. Also, if you do use a credit card, if any of you have a debit card, don't use a debit card. That's cash. That cannot be recovered. Credit card, different deal. Yes, ma'am.
So I think you're hearing some difficulties with checks. That people can take the check you have written out, they can erase everything that is on it, and then they can rewrite them. And I understand that now the solution to that is to use indelible ink. And I'm wondering if that's correct or not.
Could you hear in the back?
No.
Okay. She was saying that you're right. There's a scam going around where people are getting access to your checks, physical checks that you're sending to someone. And how do they get that, first of all? That's the big question, right? How do they get access to it? Number one, could be somebody that's coming into your house, you're leaving your checks out, they take a picture of your check. Let's say it's, heaven forbid, a house cleaner or something like that. Somebody who's in your home that you might not be ready for, and you leave your things out, you leave your statement out. All they need is the account number, the routing number to be able to make a check, and they can figure out usually where you are. Like if you're on check number 486, they'll start at check number 641. So you won't think too much of it. It's not too far off, right? So they are able to take your check and use AI, use artificial intelligence, or they can find these templates online amongst the dark web, they call it, where they can make these checks look exactly like yours and then start writing checks to themselves, and they'll do small checks, right? There'll be a check for $12 that they'll cash, and it'll work. That happened, even here in town, that's happened, where that's the example I gave you where people lost tens of thousands of dollars, and businesses have too. And it's a very good point just to keep track of your checks, because it feels very safe to send or give a check out, but if that check doesn't cash right away, or which a lot of people don't use checks anymore, I still use checks, but if it doesn't cash right away, then that's a clue it could be lost, right? And then you can cancel that check and then start looking at your account and make sure it's safe.
So don't use checks?
You can use checks. We like checks because then we know where the problem started, right? And fortunately, everybody goes to the same post office here, and we don't have PO box break-ins. I think it's happened once that I've heard of. That was a long time ago, but we don't have a million different mailboxes here, which is a whole nother discussion. But the reality is we don't have the mail theft like other communities do have, and you usually don't have to worry too much about that here. It's just when somebody who is not authorized gets your check, they can really take advantage of that system, and they'll work it. And I had one case where someone got a credit card just like that. They used it at a taco place, and I was working a huge case, and I saw that credit card was used right after the case had happened, and the credit card was stolen. So I did a bunch of search warrants. I went out and I arrested everybody, and it was in Las Vegas, right? I went out there. This didn't happen in Carmel. And when I arrested the guy and brought him in, and I was sure he did the robbery that I was investigating, and he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, I didn't do the robbery, but I stole that credit card number like 2 years ago when I was working at this burrito place, and I hold it for a year, and then after 1 year I try it, and I have so many different credit cards, I just try it until they work." So I solved a really good credit card fraud case.
What about Zelle?
Zelle, I think Zelle and Venmo, those are all secure platforms. You want to talk a little bit about those? Yeah.
So those payment platforms are pretty secure as long as you know who you're sending the money to. It's really easy for somebody to find out your handle and then email you, or rather Zelle you a request for money, or Venmo you a request for money. And you're like, well, I guess I owe them money. They know who I am. So make sure you are absolutely positive that that request is legit. Pick up the phone, call. If you don't recognize it, obviously don't pay it. But if you recognize the name, just make sure that it's not somebody who's using a familiar name that is 1 or 2 digits off from what the account usually is.
And have you used Zelle before?
Oh, yeah.
It asks you 700 times, are you sure you know this person, right? Zelle is one of those ones that really does it. PayPal and Venmo, not so much.
Venmo asks you once.
Once or twice, yeah. Sir, you had a question? I thought you did. Yes?
Well, she the lady here mentioned politics, and I probably get, 100 texts a day or emails about everything that's going on now with so-and-so, and can you contribute to da-da-da-da-da-da. Were all those just...
A lot of those might be legit, but cyber criminals are really smart, and they know how to latch on to a crisis. A good juicy crisis is a money-making opportunity for them. So if there's an earthquake, if there's a fire, if there's political upheaval, or there's discord and discontent, they're gonna milk that till the cows come home, because they know that some people will have a certain sense of urgency, like, oh, I really want to help the people that got hurt with this fire, or the people that had this accident, or how many fundraisers GoFundMe's do we hear about where somebody sets up a GoFundMe and they make $250,000 in 24 hours, but it's all small donations, right? $5, $10. It just goes nationwide, and they make a lot of money, and in some cases those turn out to be fraudulent. So if you do want to give to a cause, make sure that the cause is legit. Go to their website rather than responding to a text or to an email. It's a safer way to handle it.
Or say, I'll call you back.
Yeah, or I'll call you back. Yes, ma'am.
I've heard that with spam, that it is not a good idea to unsubscribe, because then they lock into you. Is that correct?
It can be, yeah. So there is a scam that's going around where you get sent something and they ask you to unsubscribe. If you hit that unsubscribe button and it asks for anything other than your email, and they shouldn't even ask you that, because if you're subscribed, they know what your email is. So if you click on it and it wants you to fill out a form, don't, because that's not legit.
But they can't do it just from you clicking on it.
No, not just from you
Okay,
clicking.
thank you. I bank with a local bank and I use my iPhone and I can log in by face identification. Is that safe?
As long as you don't loan your face to anybody, yes, 100% safe. Yeah, biometrics is actually the safest form. So fingerprints or facial recognition is pretty safe. Yes, ma'am.
For several years now, I've been receiving, photos, I don't open them up, but from 4 different random friends, for instance, that I have. Is there any way to just offset other than just delete, which comes in as a text? I don't see it.
So your friends are people you know are sending you photos?
Well, they may have been hacked and found.
Okay, yeah.
But these are people I've known in the past, not now.
Yes.
And some of them, I just know through church, let's say, I don't know them as a real friend.
Yeah, if it comes via text, you can block it, you can just go in there and say, block this number. Now, admittedly, if they're going to text you in the future, you're not gonna get that text. If it's a close friend, I would call them and say, hey, did you really send me this picture? Why? But if it's somebody that, it's an acquaintance that you may have had years ago and you really aren't interested in getting any more, then yeah, you can block it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can block. In fact, you can block the the email you were speaking of. I'm sorry, behind you. You can block the email sender without unsubscribing. You can block that email sender, and then that will keep maybe that person from getting a hold of you again if they're using the same email.
Then end up coming into trash.
Yeah, it goes to trash.
Again, yeah.
Goes to spam.
Junk mail.
You mentioned MFA, would you describe what MFA is?
Sure, multi-factor authentication is just that. It's a secondary way to authenticate into a system. So first way is usually your email address and a password. So by adding a third way, either a code, a text that you get on your phone, an app, we use apps like Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. You'll see a lot of sites that will say, scan this QR code. It automatically sets up multi-factor authentication on your phone so that when you go to log into that site in the future, it's gonna, after you put in your password, it's gonna prompt you to put in a special code, or it'll text you a code and ask you to enter that code.
I see that commercial title lock on TV,
Yes.
and I wondered, how did the person here in Carmel lose their home?
It's a great question. They were on Facebook and they received a message saying, Janet, looks like your Facebook account was hacked. And I think if you use this link, it worked for me. Sorry, thank you. If you click on this link, it should fix everything. So she clicked on that link. It led to a phone call. The person sending back the phone number calls, and then that person was duped because she thought she was protecting her own information, right? And there was no one looking over her finances. So what cost $500 today to protect all of your home and everything like that started adding up to thousands, to hundreds of thousands, and it spread out over time. They don't have to do it in a month. They don't have to do it in a week. They can do it over many months, and then that's how that person lost everything, which is terrible, right? In fact, I heard about it when I met with the district attorney's office when I heard about this case. Then I said, how does that happen? We all go to banks. If you're going in and pulling $100,000 out of your account, how does a human being allow that to happen just willy-nilly? It wasn't. It was very structured. So that person said, you bank at Bank A, but in order to protect your information best, I need you to open a new account at Bank B and use Zelle and take your money over from Bank A to Bank B and then go to the market and do $1,000 into Bitcoin. Look at how convoluted that is, right? But that person was, as wonderful as she was, she thought she was protecting herself, right? And that is super unfortunate and unfair, and it's hard to trace that money back because the law enforcement found out about it almost a year later, right, when everything would already been gone. So that's how we do it. That person didn't have somebody trusted in their life that they could run it by, right? And it was quite a scam. So that's how it happens, and it's always a small little chip at the beginning, but then it just builds up, and then you feel trapped, right? You start to feel trapped, you feel embarrassed, and you want to protect yourself. So it's fight or flight. In this case, she was trying to fight to keep everything and control it through more and more money, but lost everything because of it.
What if you have that type of a setup and before you started calling and acting on it, you call your local police? And
Yeah.
say, have you heard of it?
Yes, and I'm going to tell you I've heard of it, right? And I'll call Lewis. I'll call the district attorney's office. I have 20 slides after this that I promised I wouldn't make you sit through that talks about all the different scams, but we're kind of talking about the main ones that are happening now, the ones Lewis is seeing, the ones I'm seeing. But if I don't know, I can definitely find out. If it's something with the IRS, I know the people that run the IRS. I know the people that run the post office. I know the banks. Oh, but the moral of my story was also, yes, I'm going to come and do this presentation for as many human beings as I can here in Carmel and anywhere else that wants it, but I'm also going to meet with the banks. I'm going to meet with the managers of the banks, and I'm going to say, I know legally you can give $200,000 out tomorrow to this person or that person, but there should be a lot of questions. If that person doesn't come in every day and do that, there should be a tremendous amount of questions to keep that from happening, right? They have to report it if it's 30,000, 10,000 or something like that. Yeah, they have to report it, and then 10, yeah. But this person was pulling out $100,000 a week, right? So I don't think we're doing a great service to each other if we're not paying attention, right? And she would say, well, I'm remodeling my house, and the person wants to be paid cash. And the bank's like, okay, that makes sense, right? People do that, right? But $100,000 over and over and over again is quickly your whole house, right? Or half a house in Carmel. Yes, sir.
Could you back up to the slide that showed the phone number?
Oh, yeah, the slide of the phone numbers? Yes.
And unfortunately, I have to get going. I have a 4 o'clock appointment I have to get to, but I'm sure the commander will stay here all day long.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you. I saw some other questions. I don't know how much time we have, but I have time.
I don't have any kids.
Yes, ma'am.
Kids, so I know well, and so, you know, in terms of who's looking over.
Yes.
Portuguese thing, yeah.
It would be a guess.
It put me on auto ship and farm ship instead of the other ones through on Amazon.
Sure.
Weird, that's what we do.
And Amazon's tricky, right? When you do click on those Amazon things, you'll either have a choice to do one time, which should be the default, or if you accidentally click on reoccurring for something, you'll get this once a month, you know, like dish detergent, things like that. And they wouldn't mind you doing that, I'm sure. But your question was also important. She said, you know, when you go to check your credit through Equifax or TransUnion, or what's the other one? I don't remember. Experian, thank you. If you go to check those, how do you know you're not giving the wrong people that information? You have to go to their website. You have to go, and it always starts with HTTPS. The S means secure, and that's the difference. If you're getting an email from Experian to put in your information, it's probably not okay. I would never do that. I'd never click on that to go there. Even if after you've logged in, go straight to their website. You will find out, if you haven't seen it yet, when you get an email from a bank. Let's say it's Chase Bank. We have one here, right? Chase Bank sends you an email. You look at the thing and it's perfect. It's like, we need to discuss your account. Please click on here to get a password fixed or whatever. And you're looking at it, you're like, this looks real. This looks real. Click on the email from the sender. And what you're gonna see is it'll be Chase, C-H-A-Z-E, Bank. It'll be something like that, or some really weird email address. That's a clue, okay? That somebody's trying to do something to you. They don't misspell the name of their own company. Sometimes they spell it so closely, it'll be a P instead of a B. You know, just one little thing that you might not catch it, okay? Because it's gonna save you a lot of heartache trying to figure that out if you click on the wrong thing. And really, you shouldn't be clicking on anything from your email related to your bank or your financial institution and going through that. Always go straight through your bank itself. Always goes, if you have annuities through those entities, go straight through to them. And if you're not sure, ask. And if you're really not sure, ask me, okay? Because I will, I'll do everything I can to keep this from happening for you because I can't always get stuff back, right? I've been able to do it before, just in my other life, but not always. Like sometimes this money is just long gone and there's no real suspect, right? This stuff is gone. So thank you for that question. Yes?
I have an email from a person who says, thank you for your order. For $486, and there was a check, a Chase account, and
Yep.
a bank account, it's not charged.
Okay, yep,
So I'm not worried about it, I'm not addressing it,
right.
I'm not deleting it either, but will I just kind of ignore those?
That's a phishing email. I get them too, right? I just bought a $999 MacBook, which I haven't done that, right? Although I'd like one, I haven't bought it. So I think all of us who have email get those type of spamming calls, and it didn't work on you because you're aware of it, right? And I'd love to hear what the email address is that you got that from, but you're going to be surprised. It's something wonky, okay? It's something weird.
But you should delete it, right?
You can delete it, yeah. I would delete it just so you don't accidentally click on it, but
It's a person's name.
is it? Yeah.
Shouldn't she block it?
And did you buy something from Joyce? Right, you didn't buy something. So you know already it's a spam. It's a spam thing. And why don't the cops go and shut down Joyce's website? Why don't we do that? There's too many, right? There's too many. Yes?
So, to check your credit rating, do I have to go through all three agencies, or is there one agency that can do it all for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I just did it myself, right? I did it through Experian. I think I went through that one. And it does offer you the opportunity to go to those other sites. You can do it. Because the credit score, I believe your credit score is the average of all three or something like that. So if you really want to know what your credit score is,
I just wanna know if anything, I haven't checked it for years.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's gonna get a freeze all three, but I just wondered if there was an efficient, quick way, instead of calling all three.
yeah, I would do the one, and if something looks wonky, then maybe go further down that rabbit hole. I know with mine, like I was able to see the credit that I have outstanding in the world, right? So it showed me all the things, which isn't too much, luckily. But my wife did have a Mervyn's thing in there, which I don't understand. Mervyn's hasn't been around a while. But I was able to see what was in there, right? And then everything made sense, right? So, and it doesn't ding your credit score to look at your thing once a year. We're all allowed to do that. So you're able to do that.
You said Equifax, Experian, what's the third one?
TransUnion, yeah. If you're willing to share, raise your hand if something's happened to you. Real people, yeah, real people that have had something happen to them. Okay, so somebody's lost money or trust, right? Because of these scammers. And I have a feeling if I asked how many people know somebody who's experienced it, it's probably pretty real. Yeah. And I do too, right? Even some of my closest friends and families, my neighbors who've known me my whole life, have come to me with these huge losses. And I think I lived two doors down from you. How did that happen? You know? And that's why I hope this is worth it for you and worth your time, because all I'm asking you to do is think about it and not do it alone if it comes to real money, because I want you to be as safe as possible. And my cops are so busy, they can't do 50 fraud cases, right? I don't want them to have to work on that. But we will. We have to. Any questions? Yes, sir. Are we done?
A couple for you.
Oh, go.
Number one, I'm in the travel business over in Carmel. I'm on the north side of the Lucky parking lot, behind the Union 76. And I get emails, over 100 a day from around the world. And boy, I get a lot of bad stuff in there. And I just hit block. and then they don't come in anymore. So, but I had one a couple of years ago, I can't remember what the scam was, and I called the FBI. Well, you can't call the FBI, you gotta fill out a form. So I filled out a form, and even though it's electronic and coming from somewhere else, the FBI did absolutely nothing, and never got back to me. Why is that?
It's a great question. The FBI has an online forum. It's probably that forum you're talking about where you can tell them this website looks fishy to me, or they tried to scam me, or they did scam me. And my experience with the FBI, but granted I'm a cop, right? So when I call the FBI and I say, hey, Dan had this problem, he lost or almost lost $10,000, they look at it. And I can't promise you that they don't, maybe they didn't, but it does go into a forum of the of online fraud, and there are people from the FBI that work on it. I have a feeling it's overwhelming based on everything we're just talking about right now, but it's important. When you tell me about something that's happening in your life and it's related to online stuff, I do notify the FBI. I do tell them. Because number one, I think it's cool to call the FBI, but number two, I think they are really the entity that's supposed to be protecting us, right, from that type of cyber crime. Thank you. In the
I
back.
have a question, yeah. This is Carmel, it's a smaller police department, but if you're doing that in a larger city, do you get the same kind of service from the police department?
Yeah, I think so. I was from a big city, right? I was from a couple thousand employee department. Where now I think we have 13 cops and amazing dispatchers. But I think it's very subjective, right? So if you lost $1,000 and you were in a big city, would they pay a lot of attention to it? It's not personal, but the answer is maybe no. Maybe they wouldn't be able to do it. But here, sometimes we have the luxury of time to be able to work on those things. At least block it from happening to somebody else, right? And do everything we can to get your money back. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
One time I tried to be cashless, so I went along with the scam. I called the police department. So they came to pick up the money.
Wow. Yeah. No, she says she tried to catch him one time. She hooked them on the line and was going to have us wait and get them. I would love to do that every day. I did work undercover for a few years and I did stuff like that, but I don't recommend that. No, but I'll tell you what I do, and I do this for you, I promise, for each and every one of you. When you get that call and somebody says, hi, we're looking at your computer right now, we work with Microsoft, or we work with Apple, those type of things, I keep them on the line for as long as I can. And I act like I'm looking at my computer, but really I'm writing a police report or something in the background. I just keep them on the phone for as long as I can because I know every minute I keep them off of the world, they can't victimize somebody else. And there's a lot of cops that do that, right? We do that just to, because it doesn't cost anything to keep them on the phone, right? So maybe that's our way of retaliating in some way and keeping the community a little safer.
We have a block on our phone, and so far, since my brother hooked us up with this block, 740 calls was blocked.
Wow.
I've only had one person that told me that you.
Wow, yeah.
I told him, I said, I know you have a job to do, and I know you have your precious time, but don't call us back anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
They know, right? They know that they can pull data based on age, based on location. They can do that, and they can start calling you over and over and over again. So, all right, one more, yes.
So,
And I'll be up here
I
after.
went on a website the other day, and at the end of this whole bunch of research I did, it asked me for my email today, but I never gave them my email. The next day, I see an email. So, how do we block this kind of thing from happening?
Hard for me to say if you didn't give them the information, but there are sometimes other things you click on that you might not know are giving your IP address, which is basically the address for your internet, for your house, or wherever you work. You may have clicked on something that gave that IP address and they were able to put two and two together. I don't 100% know how that happened without.
Like a VPN, that you should have a VPN block that so that your address looks like you're in Italy somewhere.
That's one way of doing it, yeah. I'm not that sophisticated, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I know how to, but I don't do that, but I'm also very relentless with my email. I get a million emails, you know, I have different accounts, but I'm pretty relentless, and I make sure I don't go to these websites that hopefully do that. But my mom, right, my mom's a perfect example of somebody, she would click on it and be like, well, it says I owe this much money to the gas station. I'm like, Mom, you don't even go to that gas station. But, you know, but she's a good person, right? She doesn't want to owe money, she wants to do that, so I think we make a pretty good team.
And you said, it says you wanna unsubscribe, you can, as long as once you click that button, it doesn't ask for your email address, you can unsubscribe.
Yeah, that's a good point that Lewis made. You can unsubscribe. I tend to block the email. I just block it. You can right click on it depending on which browser you have, but let's say you have Yahoo or Google, you can right click on the email address that sent you that message and then put block. Yeah, and then it goes straight into your spam, usually, or trash. I think it goes into your spam. Wow. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Can anybody steal your property through manipulation of title changes? or
That's a
anything
good
like that?
question. I have heard of that. I've heard of that before. Pretty rare. Knock on a piano. You know what I mean? Pretty rare around here, but I do think it's important. Like if you get your if you own a house here, let's say, and you get a tax bill for your house every year, and you have to pay it 2 times a year usually, or you pay it all at once. If that's not happening, that's a problem, right? If that stops happening, that means somebody may be manipulating something. But I haven't heard of that around here.
You have?
I have not. Yeah. Last one.
Just to piggyback on that, I have had a slew of emails, you know, we were really interested in buying a house or property. We've got a person that's really interested, and then I even got a letter in the mail, handwritten.
Yes.
You know, I just threw everything out and deleted everything, but I think it's all bogus. I think maybe that's one way they do stealing your title somehow.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's realtors that look up people who have been in their home for a while, and then they just try and inundate you. But yeah, I get those letters too, and they're handwritten, like they're very personal. They know a couple that wants to buy into the neighborhood, that type of thing, right? So, well, thank you all very much for your time. I knew I was talking too much, but thank you, Dan.
Hey, let's hear it for him. He really did a great job. He is a partner that he never met until today. And he said he would hang around for you guys to ask him questions one-on-one. So that's wonderful. And if you want to go to Antarctica with the Carmel Foundation, please see me. I'll be here for another minute or two.